I noticed it first in the way she looked at me. Not long, not obvious. Just a glance that stayed a fraction too long, like she was trying to read something in my face that I didn't even know was there. She was older than me, easily twice my age. The kind of woman who carried herself like she'd lived through storms and made peace with the scars. Her hair was tied back loosely, strands falling over her cheek, and I found myself wondering if she ever let it down when no one was watching. We weren't alone, but the room felt that way. The noise from the street outside barely reached us, muffled behind the glass. A clock ticked on the wall. Somewhere in the kitchen, a kettle clicked off. And still, she didn't look away. I tried to say something casual, but my throat tightened. Instead, I ran my hand across the table, fingertips grazing the wood. She noticed. Her eyes dropped for half a second, then back up to me. Her hand moved too, not reaching for mine, not yet, just shifting closer. The distance between us was nothing, a breath, a choice. I told myself to look away, but I didn't. Her voice broke the silence. "You're too quiet." It wasn't teasing. It wasn't criticism. More like she wanted to know what lived in the silence I kept around her. "I just don't always know what to say," I admitted. My words sounded clumsy next to her calm, but she didn't laugh. She tilted her head, studying me like I was something delicate she wasn't sure she should touch. "You watch more than you speak," she said softly. The way she said it, like she'd been paying attention, sent a heat crawling up my neck. I wanted to answer, but she reached for her glass instead. Her fingers brushed mine as she lifted it. Just a flicker of contact, but it caught in my chest like a hook. I held my breath. She didn't apologize, didn't pull back too quickly. There was something steady about her, and it scared me. Because I wasn't steady. I was restless, searching, half-formed. Yet here I was, caught in the orbit of a woman who could undo me with a single look. The air between us shifted, warmer, closer. My knee brushed against hers beneath the table. I could have moved away, I should have, but I didn't. Her lips parted slightly, just enough to suggest she noticed. She set her glass down with careful precision, as if the smallest slip might reveal too much. "I shouldn't be sitting here with you like this," she said at last. Her voice was low, almost reluctant, but she didn't move. I wanted to ask why, to push past the half-wall she'd just built with those words. Instead, I let the silence linger, my hand resting open on the table, not reaching, not retreating. The seconds stretched. Her gaze flicked from my mouth back to my eyes. Something in her shifted, regret, longing, I couldn't tell. And then, the door creaked open behind us. Her shoulders stiffened. She looked away so fast it stung. My hand curled into a fist against the table, nails pressing into my palm. I didn't turn to see who it was. My eyes stayed on her, on the way she smoothed her hair and tried to recover the calm she'd just lost. But in that moment, I knew. Whatever had just passed between us, it wasn't imagined. It was real, and it wasn't going away. The door that opened behind us turned out to be nothing, just her daughter calling out that she was heading upstairs. The voice drifted down the hall, light and careless, but the sound made her shoulders lock tight. Only when the footsteps faded did she let her breath out. She pressed her palm against her glass again, though she didn't drink. "I shouldn't," she began, then shook her head, catching the words before they spilled. I wanted to ask what she meant, but I knew. She was in her 40s, with a life that looked finished from the outside. Career, house, family orbiting around her. And me, barely into my 20s, still learning what it meant to stand on my own. We were two lines not meant to cross. And yet, I shifted in my chair, feeling the weight of the silence. You ever feel like I stopped myself? My voice sounded raw in the quiet. "Like what?" she asked, eyes fixed on me again. "Like you've missed something." Her lips pressed together. For a second, she didn't answer. Then, softer, every day, it caught me off guard. She said it so plainly, without the armor she usually wore. I caught the smallest tremor in her fingers as she traced the rim of her glass. I wanted to reach across the table, steady her hand, tell her I understood. But instead I looked down, pretending to straighten my sleeve. She noticed. Her mouth curved, not quite a smile, more like resignation. "You're too young to know about missing things." "Maybe," I said. My voice was steadier than I felt. But that doesn't stop me from seeing it. The space between us throbbed with everything unspoken. I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, something subtle and warm. When she leaned a little closer, her breath brushed against my cheek as she shifted to set her glass down again. The nearness made my chest tighten. I caught myself staring at her hands, delicate, ringless. They looked like they should belong to someone who was held often, but I could see the slight stiffness in them, the tension of someone who carried too much alone. "You notice too much," she whispered. Not accusing, almost afraid. "Only when it's you," I said before I could stop myself. The words hung heavy in the air. She froze, her lips parting just slightly, and for a heartbeat, I thought she might get up and leave. Instead, she stayed. Her fingers reached across, brushing my arm, light, cautious, like testing the edge of fire. I didn't move. I wanted her to, but I stayed still, afraid that if I leaned into it, she'd vanish. Her hand lingered just a moment too long before she pulled it back, sliding it into her lap as if nothing had happened. But her eyes betrayed her. They flicked back to mine, softer now, stripped of distance. We sat there, caught in a silence louder than words, until she finally said, "You should go." But she didn't move away, and neither did I. The evening pressed on, the house quieter now, the shadows longer. She hadn't told me to leave again, not really. Instead, we sat there, two people orbiting each other, each afraid of what might happen if we stopped pretending nothing was happening at all. The sound of her phone vibrating on the counter broke the stillness. She flinched, glancing toward it. A message lit the screen. I caught the name flashing before she turned it face down. Her throat moved as she swallowed. I should answer it. I offered, though my voice betrayed something else. "I don't want to." She shifted in her seat, turning slightly toward me. The faintest smile tugged at her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You make me forget." My chest tightened. I didn't know what to say to that. So I didn't. Silence fell again, but different this time, denser, like the air itself carried weight. My hand rested on the table, open. Hers wasn't far. I felt the pull, magnetic, impossible to ignore. And then, footsteps creaked overhead. We froze. Both of us looked toward the ceiling. The faint sound of movement upstairs, a door shutting. My pulse hammered so loudly I was sure she could hear it. When it passed, her shoulders loosened, but her breath came out uneven. "This is wrong," she whispered, almost to herself. I leaned closer, my voice low. "Then why does it feel like the only thing that's right?" She turned her face toward mine, so close now I could see the fine lines around her eyes, the way her lashes trembled when she blinked. I wanted to close the space. I wanted it more than anything. Her hand lifted, hovering near my cheek, then stopped midair. She pulled it back, fingers curling in her palm. "You don't understand, I do." My voice was rougher than I intended. "More than you think." Our knees touched again beneath the table. Neither of us moved away. For a moment, nothing else existed. The ticking clock, the dim light, the warmth radiating between us. I could feel her breath, shallow, unsteady. She leaned forward just enough that I thought, "This is it. She's going to let it happen." My lips parted. Then her phone buzzed again, sharp in the silence. She jolted, pulling back like she'd been burned. The spell broke. My fist tightened against my thigh, frustration hot under my skin. But before I could say anything, she reached across and caught my wrist. Her touch was firm, desperate. "Don't," she said. Her voice cracked, softer than I'd ever heard it. "Don't make me choose right now." Her hand lingered on me, trembling, and in that fragile contact was everything she wouldn't allow herself to say. We stayed locked there, her fingers around my wrist, my body angled toward hers, both of us closer than we'd ever been, and still holding back from the edge we both wanted to fall over. And for the first time, I realized neither of us was strong enough to keep resisting forever. The night had stretched too far, every second pulling us tighter. She still held my wrist, not moving, not letting go. The grip wasn't strong, but it was enough to keep me there, caught between her resistance and her need. Finally, she released me, her fingers trailing slowly against my skin as if reluctant to let go. The absence of her touch left my arm buzzing, empty in a way I couldn't stand. You have no idea what this would mean, she said, voice low, almost trembling. Then tell me. Her eyes snapped up to mine. There was fire there, but also something brittle, like she was holding herself together by sheer will. I've spent years building a life that people think looks respectable, stable. And here you are. She stopped, her lips pressing tight. You could ruin me without even meaning to. I leaned forward, heart pounding. Do you really think I'd hurt you? Her jaw clenched. That's not the point. Then what is? My voice broke sharper than I intended. That you want me as much as I want you. And it terrifies you? She inhaled sharply, as though I'd struck something she'd been trying to bury. Silence. Then, her hand lifted, almost on instinct, brushing through my hair, pushing a loose strand back from my forehead. The gesture was tender, too intimate, and it shattered the careful distance she'd been guarding. I closed my eyes at the feel of her fingers in my hair, the warmth of her touch. When I opened them, her face was closer, the soft lines of her features etched by the dim light. You shouldn't say things like that, she whispered, though her hand didn't move. Then stop me, I whispered back. Her breath caught. She leaned in, close enough that I felt the heat of her body, the faint brush of her shoulder against mine. I could smell her perfume, faint and lingering, something warm, something that made me dizzy. Her lips hovered inches from mine, and for a moment, everything else fell away. My hand lifted, brushing lightly against her cheek, then slipping into her hair. She trembled beneath the touch, but she didn't pull away. You're too young, she breathed, but it wasn't conviction. It was a plea. I don't care, I said, my voice rough, right at her ear. Her eyes fluttered shut, and for a heartbeat, I was sure she was going to close the distance. And then, footsteps again, closer this time, a voice calling from down the hall. She jerked back, her hand slipping from my hair. I caught her wrist before she could retreat fully, holding her there. Say it, I demanded, my voice low, urgent. The door cracked open. Her daughter leaned in, half asleep, mumbling something about needing her charger. The spell shattered instantly. She pulled back so fast I almost felt the air leave between us. My hand fell uselessly to my lap. When the girl left again, the door clicking shut behind her, the silence was unbearable. She pressed her palms to her face, shaking her head. This has to stop. But the words rang hollow, like she didn't believe them any more than I did. I started to speak, but then her phone buzzed again. She cursed under her breath this time, snatching it up. She didn't mean for me to see, but I caught the message before she flipped the screen away. It wasn't just a casual check-in. It was a name I recognized. My girlfriend. The words stared at me. Is he still there? My chest constricted. The air went thin. She froze when she realized I'd seen. Neither of us spoke. Finally, I whispered, she knows? Her lips parted, then pressed together again. She set the phone down carefully, as though afraid it might shatter. She asked me weeks ago. She said she saw the way you looked at me. The ground shifted beneath me. Shame and heat flushed my skin all at once. And you didn't tell me? Her hand trembled as she reached for a glass. She didn't drink, just gripped it tightly. What was I supposed to say? I felt it too. Her voice cracked on the last word. I pushed up from the chair, pacing a step, then stopping. So she knows. She knows. Her eyes followed me, wide, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. That's why this can't happen. But her body betrayed her. She stood too, stepping closer, not further. Her shoulder brushed mine as she tried to pass, and the contact sent a shock straight through me. You say it can't, I said, lowering my voice, but you keep moving closer. She froze, inches from me now. The glass in her hand tilted, water sloshing against the rim. I gently took it from her and set it on the counter, my fingers brushing hers longer than necessary. She didn't pull away. Her breathing was unsteady. Mine matched it. I could feel the warmth of her body radiating, her hair brushing my arm when she shifted just slightly toward me. We'll be found out, she whispered. Then let it happen, I murmured back. Her eyes searched mine, as though looking for something she couldn't admit she wanted. For a long, suspended second, nothing else existed, just the closeness, the way her hand lifted again, trembling as it hovered near my chest. And then she whispered, so faint I almost missed it, "If we cross this line, there's no going back." Her hand touched me at last, resting lightly over my heartbeat, and neither of us moved away. Her hand lingered against my chest, light but steady, like she could feel the thrum of my heartbeat under her palm. I covered her hand with mine, pressing it closer, refusing to let her take it away this time. "Say it," I whispered. My voice shook, but not from fear, from the certainty that this moment would change everything. Her breath came ragged, her lips parting as if she wanted to deny me again, but instead, she stepped closer. The gap between us disappeared until her body brushed mine. My pulse raced, every nerve lit. "I can't fight it anymore," she breathed. Her forehead leaned against mine, her eyes closing. The world narrowed to the faint warmth of her skin, the scent of her hair, the sound of her shallow breaths tangling with mine. My hand slid up, brushing the strands from her face, tucking them gently behind her ear. She trembled under the touch, but didn't move away. The nearness was unbearable. Her lips hovered so close I could feel the ghost of them when she spoke. "This is madness." "Then let's go mad," I whispered. And then it happened. Her mouth against mine, soft at first, almost hesitant, but the moment our lips touched, everything broke loose. Years of her restraint, all of my longing, colliding in one fragile, desperate kiss. Her hands clutched my shirt, pulling me closer, while mine cradled her face, fingers trembling against her jaw. The kiss deepened, not polished or perfect, but raw, unpracticed, alive. When she finally pulled back, her chest rose and fell against mine. Her eyes glistened with something that wasn't just desire. It was fear, release, and something dangerously close to relief. "We shouldn't have," she whispered, though her hand stayed locked to my waist. I shook my head, my forehead still resting against hers. We both know we couldn't have stopped. The silence between us was heavy, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was full of everything we'd been avoiding, denying, burying. Her thumb brushed my lip where her kiss had just been. "Do you realize what this means?" "Yes." My answer came without hesitation. "It means we can't go back to pretending." Her lips trembled into the smallest, saddest smile. "God help us both." But she didn't let go. Neither did I. In that moment, clarity settled like a storm breaking. We understood each other. Not perfectly, not safely, but completely. All the fear, the regret, the longing, it had led here, to the choice we both made. And now, there was no doubt left. We were in this, together. The room felt changed after that kiss. Not louder, not brighter, but charged, like even the walls knew something had shifted. She didn't move away. Instead, she stayed close, her hand still resting on me, as if she needed the contact to believe it was real. I thought she would speak first, but she didn't. She just breathed, her forehead still resting against mine, and for once I didn't try to fill the silence. "Finally," she whispered, "I was so afraid of this." "Of me?" Her lips curved faintly, bittersweet. "Of wanting you. Of what it would make me." I brushed my thumb across her cheek, slow, careful. "It doesn't make you anything except human." Her eyes closed, her shoulders loosening, like the weight she'd been carrying for years finally slipped a little. She leaned into my touch, and the gesture, so simple, hit me harder than the kiss. The age between us, the hesitation, the fear of being seen. It was all there in the way she exhaled, shaky but steadying against me. "I kept telling myself it couldn't happen," she said softly. "That I was too old, that you'd see me differently." I shook my head. "I've never seen anyone the way I see you." Her laugh was short, disbelieving, but her fingers tightened in my shirt. "You don't make this easy." "Good." I smiled, though my chest still thudded unevenly. "Because I'm not going anywhere." She looked at me, then really looked, and something eased in her face. Not all the fear was gone, but enough. Enough to let her slide her hand down and thread her fingers through mine. We stayed like that for a long time, just holding on, the clock ticking somewhere behind us, the world moving past the window. Her thumb traced slow circles over the back of my hand. My other arm slipped around her, drawing her closer until she settled against my chest. There was no rush anymore. No words needed. Just her warmth against me, the steady rhythm of her breathing, the quiet way she finally let herself lean. I kissed her forehead, light, lingering, and she sighed as though something inside her had finally let go. "This won't be simple," she murmured into my shirt. I tightened my hold. "The best things never are." She smiled at that. I felt it against my chest. And for the first time that night, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like home. We sat there until the night stretched into stillness, fingers intertwined, her head on my shoulder. No more hiding. No more pretending. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. And for both of us, that was enough. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Thought Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next? Her eyes burned into mine, raw and unguarded. Her lips parted, and the words barely formed. A confession trembling at the edge. "I can't stop thinking about you." The sound of the doorknob turning cut her off. We froze, caught between what we'd almost done and the impossibility of pretending it hadn't happened.